So what's going on guys, Kate is here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today I will show you the top 10 most powerful weapons in Diablo Immortal. So every single class has different legendary items and weapons, and the question is, which weapon should you keep and use, and which one should you salvage? So in this video I will show you and explain why one weapon is better than the other one and much more. So if this sounds interesting to you, then let's get right into it. So then starting off with number 10, we have the Eager Maelstrom weapon, which is made for the Barbarian. We want to put this item at number 10 because he doesn't have the best ever perks, but they're still pretty good. So your legendary perks will give you the whirlwind radius increase, but your whirlwind movement speed itself will get reduced. And then if you awaken, then your energy consumes 10% slower. And then lastly, for one of our passives, we make every single one of our attacks have a 4% chance to poison the enemies, inflicting 65% base damage over the next 6 seconds. And then if the enemy dies, so for example a weak monster, then the poison applies to nearby enemies, which will poison them as well. Overall this is a great weapon with very cool looking skin, and as the whirlwind every single barbarian uses in their build, so this weapon is must have. So then moving over to the number 9, and we have the bristle, which is made for the Crusader class. So first of all, this weapon's icon even by itself looks very cool, and it has a very nice cool looking skin. For your legendary perks you make your Sacred Fire skill now also do waves of flames, or the sword dealing fire damage to all nearby enemies. And then if you awaken, then your fire damage gets increased by 10%. And then lastly for your passives, when you take damage, you have a 20% chance to unleash a retribution on all nearby enemies, which will do damage to 28% of your current health. So if you have 10k HP, you will do about 3000 damage and much more. Overall this weapon is a really good choice for Crusaders because of the fire damage, and the Sacred Fire skill usually would only be used on the melee range. But now the flames will go about 10 to 50 meters, so you can damage enemies from a lot further distance. So then going over to the next one, which is the Breath of Winter, and this weapon is a crossbow that is made for the Demon Hunter. So the legendary perks on your weapon transform your multi-shot skill to now shoot a frost arrows that deal damage and chill all of your enemies. And if you awaken, then your multi-shot cooldowns get reduced by 10%. And then lastly, your passive will only work if you have the power and command gem. So if you do, then your gem alternates states every 9 seconds. So your power increases your primary attack damage by 24%, while the command will give all of your skills 24% damage increase. So that means that the first 9 seconds, your primary attack damage gets increased. And then the next 9 seconds, all of your normal skills will do more damage, and this will keep on switching every 9 seconds. So as you can tell, the weapon perks and passives are very powerful, and this weapon is really good for PvE, but for PvP you will be unstoppable. So then moving over to the next weapon, which is the Dragon's Indignation, and it is made for the Monks class. So first things first, for your weapon legendary perks, we now make our 7-sided strike ability burn all enemies, which will last for a few seconds. And if we awaken, then the skill's cooldowns get reduced by 10%. And then lastly for your passive, when we use one of our buff skills on one of our teammates, we increase their damage and movement speed by 24% for the 6 seconds, and then on top of everything else, we reduce his cooldowns by additional 6%. So overall this weapon is amazing for group content, or even if you buff yourself. The perks are great for more AoE fire damage, and the passives will now increase your team's damage by 24%. So then moving over to the next weapon, which is the dagger called the Blight, and it is made for the Necromancer. So for your perks you get to transform your Bone Spear skill, that besides just damage, the enemies will be poisoned as well. So you will be able to do more damage by 1.4k every second, and that will last for the next 3 seconds. And then if you awaken, then your Bone Spear damage gets increased by 10%. And then lastly for your passive, we have 2 of them, and the first one increases all of your damage up to 24%, and your movement speed by 10%. With the less bonus damage, the lower your HP is. And then the second passive will give you more defense. So when your HP is below 50%, all of the damage that you take from the enemy will be reduced by 8%. So overall this is amazing PvP weapon, which makes your Necromancer unstoppable and basically unkillable, as long as you stay behind or at least with your team and try to not take damage, but instead send all of your damage skills and summons to the enemy, then you will be able to do crazy amount of damage. So then for the 5th weapon we have the staff called the Windshaper, and it is made for the wizard class. So for your legendary perks you get your arcane wind ability, now summon a tornado that follows your enemies and keeps doing damage while in the tornado path. And if you awaken, then your arcane wind damage gets increased by 10%. And then lastly for your passive you get 2 of them, and the first one increases your damage by 1.5% for each enemy hit, and it can stack up to 3 times. But then for the second passive we get a chain death bonus that can be increased a maximum of 4 charges. So overall this is a great wizard weapon that transforms your basic arcane wind now into a big tornado. And from both of your passives you basically get a 24/7 damage increase by about 6 to 7%. So you can eliminate one small mob group and then get a damage increase, and then move over to the next one and do the same thing again. So then for the next one we have the reaching rebuke, and this weapon is made for the monk class. So first things first, for your legendary perks we get an exploding palm that now launches your character at a location and strikes the area with a giant palm as you land. This will damage all enemies in the area but increase your cooldowns. And if you awaken, then your exploding palm damage gets increased by 10%. And then lastly for your passive you get 2 of them. So the first one increases all of your damage up to 24% and your movement speed by 10%, with less damage bonus the lower your health is. And the second passive will give you more defense. So when your HP is below 50%, all of the damage that you take from the enemy will be reduced by 8%. Overall this is amazing weapon for solo farming, and it has a very cool looking skin. So what are you waiting for? Check my video on where and how to farm this weapon and have fun. So then moving over to the next weapon, which is the dagger called Desolatoria, and it is made for the necromancer. So first of all, your legendary perks will upgrade your command golem skill that now burns all enemies instead of doing basic damage. And if you awaken, then your golem damage gets increased by 10%. And then lastly for your passive, your attacks now have a 50% chance to summon a shadow clone that lasts for 20 seconds. And depending on how strong you are, he will be doing damage equal to some of your power. So overall this weapon is must have for every single necromancer. This weapon perks will make your normal golem into a farming machine, so you will be able to do a lot more fire AoE damage. And then from this passive you have another one that gives you the option to have up to 2 shadow clones. So all of these clones and golems will be doing huge amount of damage. So then going over to one of the last weapons, which is the Flamespite, and it is made for the demon hunter. So first things first, for your perks we transform our multi-shot skill, which now shoots a bunch of flaming arrows that damage and burns all enemies around you. And then if you awaken, then our cooldowns get reduced by 10%. And then lastly, your passives will only work if you use the power and command gem. So if you do, then your gem alternates states every 9 seconds. So the power increases your primary attack damage by 24%, while the command gives all of your skills 24 damage increase. So that means that the first 9 seconds you get your primary attack with increased damage, and then the next 9 seconds all of your normal skills will do more damage, and this will keep on switching every 9 seconds. So overall this is one of the best weapons in the game, and if you use it on the demon hunter, then you can make yourself into the highest damage class and build in the game, as long as of course if you use the rest of your setup to its maximum potential. And if you're wondering the best builds for all these weapons, then don't forget to check out my build guides on every single class. So then moving over to the last and final weapon, which is the Remembered, and it is made for the Barbarian class. So this particular item is one of the easiest to get, because you can level up your battle pass, and at rank 10 you can choose one legendary item for your class, so you're guaranteed to get this weapon from your battle pass. But if you already chose a different weapon, then don't worry, because you can still, like any other weapon, have a chance to get as a drop from the enemies. But then with that said, the reason why this weapon is so good and must have is because of the legendary perks, which will transform your Hammer of the Ancient skill now to summon a spirit who stuns all nearby enemies and fights besides you. And if you awaken, then your Spirit of the Ancients life gets increased by 10%. And then for your passive, when you take damage, you have a 20% chance to unleash a retribution to all nearby enemies, which will do big extra damage to 20% of your current life. So if you have 15,000 health, then you will be able to do about 4.5k damage and much more. So overall this weapon is 100% must have for any barbarian, because it will increase your overall damage by a lot, and as you get a spirit that follows you, so a lot of times the enemies will attack him first. So not only he will do damage, but he can take the enemy damage from you that you would usually take. So I really do appreciate everyone for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback or other good Diablo Immortal guides or builds that you would like to see in the next video, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and you won't miss any more amazing content from me. With all this said, you have an amazing day and I will see you in my next video, so take it easy, peace.